Good afternoon, Mrs. Wood. Thank you for joining me on this Zoom today to ask you a few questions about your manager role. I have a couple questions for you that would you be happy to answer?
Absolutely.
Awesome. So just starting off, what is your name? What is your title and the name of the company you work for, as well as your email address?
Sure. My name is Peggy Wood. I'm an employment partner at the law firm of Chiesa, Shahinian, and Giantomasi in Roseland, New Jersey. And my email address is mwood@csglaw.com.
Awesome. So getting into some management questions, how many people do you manage and are on your team?
Okay, well, I work for the largest law firm in the state of New Jersey, and I'm in the employment department. I'm a partner along with 6 or 7 other partners. We have, so I manage 5 employment associates, 2 employment paralegals, and 1 secretary.
Awesome. So what type of work do the people do that you manage? And are they more supervising roles, business professionals, operations roles? What kind of roles are these people in?
Well, we're all professionals in the legal industry, so associates are generally more young or younger attorneys without as much experience as I or my fellow partners have. So we are basically there to supervise their work. There's a lot of work to be done, so we need to make sure that we have assistance. So having competent and responsible associates is huge. There's a lot of documentary work, so that's where paralegals come in, as well as some trial preparation things. So I utilize 2 paralegals for that work. And then I have a secretary who helps with my day-to-day administrative stuff, as well as my billing and other administrative matters.
Awesome. Now, with these associates, how often do you meet with them to talk about their performance as if they're meeting their goals or not?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, um, twice a year formally, we have like mid-year reviews, which are, basically, like I said, there's like 6 or 7 partners in my department, and we all kind of like grab one associate each and go in and sort of give our opinion on what they're doing, what they can be doing better,
Hmm.
um, and what they're doing well as in addition to constructive feedback. But the review at the end of the year is a more formal process, and that's important. Basically, my HR department will send out a link for any attorneys, associates who I've worked significantly on. Sometimes I work with an associate for 5 hours. I can't really assess their performance, but if I've had major matters with an attorney and have worked with them extensively, I will review them, as will any other partner who's worked with that associate. And that review is obviously very important because it goes to raises. Are you going to get a raise? And if so, how much? Are you going to get a bonus? Or are we going to put you on a performance improvement plan and possibly manage you out of the firm? So it's that those are the 2 formal review processes. But I would say managing an employee is an everyday thing.
Hmm.
Um, and actually, as an employment attorney, I I counsel employers on management and performance issues. So I
Hmm.
do have to practice what I preach, because when you are having an underperforming employee and all of a sudden you want to terminate them, but there's no record of poor performance, it could be a legal issue, because if that employee just disclosed a disability or a pregnancy or made a complaint about something, it's going to be very hard and it could lead to legal liability. So, my
Very
point with
complicated.
that is that on a daily basis, I let my employees know if they're meeting my standards, or if I have concerns. So it's an ongoing process.
Awesome. You talk a lot about everyday management for your employees. What kind of, if is there any specific techniques or leadership styles that you may use to get the most results out of your team?
Um, I mean, it really depends on the circumstances. I mean, sometimes, it is kind of like a high pressure job. We have lots of deadlines. So I'm big on setting expectations.
Hmm.
I also know the people I'm managing, I'm not the only person managing them. So if I'm giving someone a brief to write, I know there's 6 or 7 other partners who they're working for too, potentially. So I do need to be mindful, not of their other responsibility. So some of it's just talking to my partners and saying, "Hey, does Andrew have time for this?" And oh no, give right now Andrew is gearing up for a trial, so I'm not using him as much this week, so I'll be focusing on other people. But um, how so it's either informal, it's explaining what I always like to give a deadline.
Hmm.
Like, I need this brief, it needs to be filed by next Friday. Can you give me a draft by Tuesday so that I can review it, so that I can have the client review it? So I think giving deadlines is very important, and also giving feedback. So when I get a brief, if it's all redlined, I'm showing them those red lines because I think people learn through the mistakes that they make, or they learn my style of work.
Mm.
So I
Gotcha.
just not, sometimes people make changes and never show it to the associate who did the laboring or on creating that document. So I think showing people, what they gave me and what I changed is important. Having expectations of deadlines is important. And, just being respectful, but also honest about expectations and their performance.
Interesting. So it sounds like you use a combination of informal chats and informal chats for more the more serious reviews towards the end of the year, which is important. How would you say you document these performance-based conversations? Are these
Yeah.
used by a scribe, or are you personally taking down these notes and getting a summary of the conversations?
Yeah, so if I have an informal conversation, I will sometimes document it just by like sending myself an email,
Hmm.
or forwarding an email to the client or to the associate and saying, dear so and so, as we discussed, I'd like you to improve upon these things. I also like to recognize good work. We just got a great result in a case that got thrown out of court. So I sent it to my executive team, acknowledging my team. So it goes both ways, to keep them engaged and boost their morale.
Good.
But yeah, so the documentation is sometimes it's to them, as discussed, this is what I expected, this is what I got, this is what I want you to improve upon. So it's typically in emails. When it's very serious, though, I will send an email to HR
Hmm.
to keep to go in their personnel file. And just and also as an employment partner here, I'm also the person who helps other managers manage. And when we have a problem employee who we might need to, move out, they're going to come to me and I'm going to look at the documentation. So documentation is huge. Contemporaneous documentation is huge. It makes these, any required terminations cleaner, and less likely to be fought in
Gotcha.
court.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Then just my last question I'm interested in. What do you think it takes to become a manager, and how did you get to this point in your career?
Well, it takes, and I see, because part of the progression of an attorney is going from an associate to a partner. So I started here in 2006 and became partner in 2009. And it's really just doing great work. It's attention to detail. It's interpersonal skills. It's being able to, convince clients, convince judges, convince juries. So, those are the factors. But what I see in successful attorneys, like I said, is a work ethic,
Hmm.
attention to detail, and good work.
Awesome.
Yeah. And
Well,
just going back, I think
mhm.
also as a manager, I think one of the most important things that you need to excel in, well, I think it's easier to be a manager if you hire good employees. So I
Mm.
take the whole hiring process very seriously. Um, and I want to hire people who are smart, who are personable. I want to see a good track record, especially with junior associates. I want to see transcripts. I want to see grades that are all A's and B's. because that often correlates to high performance in the workplace. So, yeah, sometimes I've seen us like jump into or rush the hiring process, and it just becomes a big pain in the neck.
Okay.
So I think that's a crucial thing in being a manager is knowing how to pick good people.
Awesome. Well, Miss Peggy Wood, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate your insight, and I hope you all the best.
Same to you, Kevin.
Thank you very much.
Be good. Bye bye.